compression. It's one of my favorite effects. It's such a powerful resource, but I think it's really misunderstood as well. I think especially bass players. I see bass players use compression mostly as like a throw it on your signal to clean up sloppy playing, or maybe like to tame extreme dynamic range. Like if you slap a lot or you play really aggressively, you can kind of sit and mix a little more or a little less abrasively. That's usually the sort of application that I see bass players reach for when they reach for a compressor. But I have this theory that compression is actually incredibly expressive and creative. And if you can understand some of the basics of compression and allow it to affect your playing, it can be an incredibly inspiring creative resource. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pedal. This is the new 1176 by Universal Audio. And I'm going to dial in 3 very different bass tones with this compressor. And I'm going to play 3 very different bass parts in a song and demonstrate some of the creative applications of compression. I think this is going to be fun, and I'm just excited. So here we go. First setting, I have it in single mode. I have a relatively quick attack, medium release, a ratio of 8:1. Nothing too crazy here. You might not necessarily even really hear it too much in the mix, but I definitely feel it. And I will say, I didn't come up with this part until I had the compressor set this way. And this is the whole point here, right? It's allowing effects to inspire you in different ways. And when I have a compressor set like this, I find it sort of gives me permission to play with a little more swagger or intensity. I'm allowing myself to dig in a little more with the bass. And it lets a different sort of bouncy quality come out of my playing. I can feel the compressor kicking in, and then I'm allowing that to interact with my feel and my time feel and just sort of like let the notes bounce off of the compressor, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to articulate with words, but you definitely can feel it. And I think leaning into the feeling is cool. Leaning into letting the equipment inspire you. Okay, so what's wild is I didn't click on an overdrive pedal. I didn't distort an amplifier. All of that saturation that you're hearing on this signal is coming from this pedal, because this is more than just an 1176 pedal, and it has to do with this magic switch here. You can switch from single mode, which was what I was on the last track, to dual mode, and now it's 2 1176s interacting with each other. And this isn't a new thing. This is actually a part of rock and roll history. If you're familiar with the song Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, that's how they got the guitar sound on that song. That's not a overdriven amp. That's the sound of an electric guitar going into 2 1176 outboard compressors, and those compressors interacting with each other, and it's creating this really cool saturation. And it inspired a totally different bass part for me. I picked up a pick. I leaned into that sort of like aggressive, saturated, noisy, messy sort of vibe, and I really enjoyed playing that part. And again, this is the point of the video, is you can use a compressor or any pedal to inspire different parts, and allowing the idiosyncrasies or the nuances of some of this gear, letting the quirkiness come out of it, and then leaning into it, like following the inspiration from the sound. so this third example, I switched to the sustain mode, and I also cranked the ratio all the way to all. So this is a pretty extreme form of compression. We're really squishing these notes, and what it's doing is it's making these notes last almost forever, right? It's like an infinite sustain, or almost infinite. And this is a sort of sound that slide players like to use, where you can like take a note on a guitar that would decrease, it starts to blossom as the compressor is working, and it makes this note just like continue on, and it brings out sort of string noise and little nuance of the movement as the note just keeps lasting. It's a really cool sound, and this is a sound that you could not do without a compressor. But on bass, it was really fun because it was almost making almost like a synth bass sort of sound. So what I did is I sort of leaned into that. So I would have a note and I would let it last, and then all of a sudden I would cut it off abruptly, and there would be a sort of like pulse in the music. You can use a compressor to groove, right? You can use the note duration as a part of the groove. And I think that using a compressor can help you come up with or sit in a groove in a different way, because it's actually changing the shape of your note. It's changing how long your note lasts and how abrupt it is when you cut the note off. You don't have to use this one. There's a lot of great compressors out there, but I do think this switch in the middle is a really helpful, creative tool to have. Another one that I think is really good and that I have used before is the Origin Effects Kelly 76. This is a great one. They're both based off of the original 1176 that Universal Audio actually made the original, and then now they're making in a pedal form. And I think these are both really cool options. The point is not which compressor you use. The point is, if you understand the fundamentals, you can start to use it in creative ways, and I think it's really fun. If you want to help this channel, I do have affiliate links to both of these compressors in the description below. And then also I have a bass course. I teach bass, and I love bass. And if you want to take the next step with your playing as a bass player, check that out. Links to all of that are down in the description below. So thanks for hanging out this week. I had so much fun. I would encourage you to get your hands on a compressor and go start squishing some sounds and coming up with some weird bass parts, because it's super fun. Oh, and by the way, this is not a paid ad, although I should say I did get this thing for free. It was kind of weird how it came about. I was actually out in California with my friend Rhett Shull, helping him film a video for Universal Audio, and as a thank you to the crew, UA gave us some pedals, so I got this for free, but not with any expectation of me making a video. In fact, I don't even know if they know that I have a YouTube channel. I wasn't planning to make a YouTube video about it, but I've just been so inspired by it recently, I thought it'd be a fun thing to include on the channel. Oh, and by the way, I think it's important to understand some of the core fundamental principles of compression before you start using it creatively. So if terms like attack and release and threshold and ratio and terms like that, if those are confusing or overwhelming to you, that is okay. I have a video where we go in depth on some of the fundamental terms and principles of compression. I'll put a link up above for you to go watch that one if you don't know this stuff yet. But assuming you understand some of those basic principles of compression, then we can start to take those principles and apply them in creative ways, and it's really fun.